We don't always want the bright, happy sound of the major scale. Sometimes we want to go dark, we want to go sad, we want to go melancholic, and that is what the minor scale can give us. By the end of this lesson, you'll know exactly what the minor scale is, how it compares to the major scale, and the best ways to start getting these sounds into your playing. What is the minor scale? Well, it contains 7 notes with each letter of the musical alphabet appearing once, and it has a distinct scale formula, much like the major scale. We get that formula when we play 1 octave of the musical alphabet from the note of A, from the open string 5, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. That formula being whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Now, to give it its full name, this is the natural minor scale, making the distinction between this and 2 other minor scales which exist, the harmonic minor and melodic minor. That's more getting into jazz kind of stuff. If I say minor scale here for today, we're talking the natural minor scale, this scale. When compared to the major scale, you really get a sense of the sadness and melancholy of this natural minor scale. So how exactly does it differ from the major scale? The first important change, perhaps the most important, is the 3rd major scale degree is being flattened, taken down 1/2 step to what we call a minor 3rd or a flat 3. Anything minor, whether it's a chord or a scale, will always have this flat 3 minor 3rd note. Not only that, there are 2 other major scale notes which are being flattened, namely the 6th and the 7th. The minor scale degrees then, you could say, a 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. So how do we quickly know the notes of any minor scale? Well, like we've just seen, if you take any major scale and flatten the 3rd, 6th, and 7th notes down 1/2 step, you will have the notes of its natural minor scale. So C major, we know C major, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If I flatten the 3, the 6th, and the 7th, I will have C minor. So C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. And what I just showed you there is a great way to start thinking about learning the minor scale patterns. If you're familiar with the major scale, you have a shape or 2 under the fingers, and you can identify the numbers, then what you need to do is lower the 3, the 6, and the 7, and then you've got yourself a scale pattern for the minor scale. How are the major scale and minor scale linked? The minor scale has what we call a relative major, and vice versa. The major scale has a relative minor. This relativity we can see in the circle of fifths. In the outer layer we have the major scales, and in the inner layer we have the minor scales. So we can see that A minor is related to C, just as C minor is related to E flat. Now what this means is that the 2 scales will share the same notes and in turn the same chords. The relative minor is the 6th note of the major scale. So C major, C, D, E, F, G, A is the 6th note. A minor is therefore the relative minor of C. And likewise, the note of C is the 6th scale degree of E flat, making it its relative minor. So on the fretboard, the root of the relative minor exists 3 frets lower towards the headstock. So if I have C at the 8th fret of the E string, down 3 frets, 1, 2, 3, I'm at the note of A, and that is A minor, its relative minor. And likewise, coming from the minor scale, its relative major is then the 3rd scale degree, or 3 frets up towards the guitar body. So A minor, up 3 frets, and get to the note of C, its relative major. With these 2 scales sharing the same note, the minor scale is considered one of the modes of the major scale. The scale of C major, you will sometimes also see it called C Ionian. That's giving it its mode name. A natural minor, which is being derived from C major, C Ionian, can also be called the A Aeolian mode. This relativity doesn't only apply to the 7-note scale, it also works with pentatonic scales. So the notes of C major pentatonic are also the notes of the A minor pentatonic. Just be careful if you start thinking about pentatonic scales and other scales in this way, because whilst they are the same notes, they're not the same root notes, they're not the same chord tone, so just be careful. Wherever possible, think of major and minor scales as two distinct things, two different worlds with completely different moods and different feels. Here's a minor scale pattern for you. The interesting thing is that the minor pentatonic scale exists within the natural minor scale. So if you know a minor pentatonic pattern, I'm sure you know this one. That gives you 5 of the 7 notes of the minor scale. What we're missing here is the 2nd and the 6th scale degrees, remembering that the 6th is going to be flattened. It's going to be a half step above the 5th. The 2nd is a whole step above the root, or a half step below the minor 3rd, the flat 3. Adding those in then, we get root, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, root, 2, flat 3. So add the 2 and the flat 6 to the minor pentatonic and you get the natural minor scale. Another reason why it's super valuable to know the numbers in the scale patterns. Go beyond dots and think about intervals. Make sure you practice the scale over an A drone or an A minor chord to ensure you're hearing it in the right way. Remember, if you were to play these notes over a C chord, you're going to be hearing the notes of C major, not A minor. All scales need their proper harmonic context. What are the chords in the minor key? This shift of the tonal center of the key from C to A gives a completely different sound and in turn a different order of the chords. Progressions in the minor key will commonly begin with the 1 chord and it will be, of course, a minor chord. So A minor is the 1 chord. The 2 chord then would be a diminished triad or a minor 7 flat 5, and we find this used a lot more in the minor key, particularly with things like a minor 2 5 1. Upper half step, the 3 chord will be major, the 4 chord is minor, the 5 chord is also minor, the 6 chord will be major, and the 7 chord will be major. So the primary chords, the 1, 4, 5, are all now minor chords. The major chords are found on the 3, 6, and 7, and the diminished is now the 2 chord. Like the major key, you can find the minor key in the circle of fifths if you orientate yourself around the A minor in the inner layer. Around it, in those 3 segments, you will find the chords of the minor key. To identify the chords in a key, again, we use Roman numerals. Uppercase when we have major chords, lowercase when we have minor chords, and we use the superscript degree symbol for the diminished chord. What we add here, though, you will see are the flat symbols, and that, like the scale degrees, shows that the root note is being flattened when compared to the major scale. So for example, if you were in the key of A major, a 1, 3 would be the chords of A major to C sharp minor, a 1, 3. But in the key of A minor, we have the chords of A minor to C. So that 1 chord has been minorified. So it's a lowercase 1. And then the C is major, but the root note has been flattened. C sharp has become C natural. So we annotate that as a B3, a flat 3. The root note has been lowered when compared to the major scale. For some inspiration on some common minor key progressions for your loops and backing tracks, check out this lesson. But make sure you hit the like and subscribe button before you do. Practice well, and I'll see you next week.